It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? Rachel Reeves, who isn't even an economist, has the sheer audacity to criticize anyone's approach to the economy. She's out here calling others clueless while her own economic policies are falling apart. It's as if she thinks a few words of criticism can mask the reality of her party's failed strategies. But wait, here's the twist. Her latest move backfires so spectacularly, it's hard to ignore. In today's video, we'll be discussing how Rachel Reeves' fatal mistake turned into a massive political blunder and how Reform UK is benefiting from it. Stay tuned, because this is one video you don't want to miss. Imagine the audacity of Rachel Reeves, a so-called economic expert, criticizing others on their economic policies when her own are falling apart. Not only is she not even an economist, but her recent attack on Nigel Farage and Reform UK might just backfire in the most spectacular way. In today's video, we're diving deep into how Rachel Reeves' actions could be the catalyst for Labour's downfall, how Reform UK's rise is gaining unstoppable momentum, and why this may be the beginning of a political shift that no one saw coming. But before we dive in, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for daily updates on British politics and more. You won't regret it. If you've been following British politics, you've probably heard about Rachel Reeves and her bold, but ultimately disastrous, attempts at criticizing other political figures, especially when it comes to economic policies. The thing is, Rachel Reeves isn't even an economist, so it's a bit rich for her to criticize people like Nigel Farage, who love him or hate him, has proposed some solid economic ideas. But there's a deeper story here, and that's exactly what we'll be exploring today. How did her attack on Farage and Reform UK end up backfiring so badly? And what does this mean for the future of British politics? Stay tuned, because the next few minutes will surely change the way you look at Labour's economic plans. Rachel Reeves has long positioned herself as a champion of economic reform within the Labour Party. But is she really the right person to be leading these discussions? Here's where things get tricky. She's not an economist. In fact, her qualifications in the field of economics are practically non-existent. So it's quite bold, and frankly, a bit hypocritical, for her to criticize figures like Nigel Farage, who, despite his controversial views, has proposed a range of economic policies that actually aim to boost working-class people's income. Take, for instance, Farage's policy for raising the income tax threshold. This is something that would directly benefit workers by allowing them to keep more of their hard-earned money. The logic behind this is simple. If you reduce the tax burden on individuals, they have more disposable income to spend on goods and services. This in turn stimulates local businesses and drives economic growth. It's a win-win. More money in people's pockets means more spending, which leads to more production, more jobs, and ultimately more tax revenue. This is how you grow an economy, not through relentless tax hikes. But Rachel Reeves, on the other hand, is pushing for higher taxes. Her approach is all about increasing government revenue through taxation. But here's the problem. Her plans might not generate the revenue she expects. In fact, they could actually harm economic activity. Why? Because when you tax businesses and individuals to the point of breaking, you discourage investment and entrepreneurship. This leads to less money circulating in the economy, which could stagnate or even decrease tax revenue over time. So her high-tax strategy could very well backfire, leaving the economy worse off than before. Now let's talk about experience. One of the key criticisms of Labour under Rachel Reeves is that the party's front bench is filled with individuals who simply don't have enough real-world experience. Most of them have spent their entire careers in the public sector or academia, with little to no understanding of how businesses operate. They've never had to meet payroll, run a company, or deal with the financial struggles that everyday working people face. They have no idea what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. But Reform UK? They're made up of people with real-world experience. Leaders like Lee Anderson, for example, understand the struggles of working-class families because they've lived through them. These are the kinds of people who know how to make economic policies that actually work for everyday Brits. It's no surprise then that Labour is starting to target Reform UK more aggressively. The rise of Reform UK poses a serious threat to Labour's dominance. As more and more voters begin to realize that Reform UK has a practical, business-friendly approach to the economy, Labour's traditional grip on working-class voters is starting to slip. In fact, at the next general election, Labour is set to lose a significant number of seats to Reform UK. This should be a wake-up call to those who have dismissed Reform UK as a fringe movement. The tide is turning and voters are starting to take notice. As we reach the climax of this discussion, it's clear that Rachel Reeves' misguided attacks on Reform UK and its supporters are exposing Labour's biggest weakness. The reality is, her party's focus on higher taxes, while ignoring the needs of the people, is losing ground fast. Meanwhile, Reform UK is offering a fresh, business-friendly approach that resonates with ordinary working Brits who are tired of policies that just don't work. The upcoming general election will be a true test. Will Labour continue down a path of decline, or will they listen to the voices of change? If they don't act now, they could be looking at a devastating loss in 2025. The rise of Reform UK is no longer a fringe movement. It's a sign of what's to come. So, what does this all mean for the future of British politics? As Labour continues to target Reform UK with criticism and personal attacks, the reality is that the public is seeing through it. Voters are beginning to recognize that Reform UK has a clear, solid plan for the economy, one that focuses on growth, reducing taxes, and empowering businesses. Meanwhile, Labour's high-tax, anti-business agenda could eventually backfire. The rise of Reform UK marks a significant shift in the political landscape, and it's clear that Labour is now worried. Why else would they be directing so much energy into discrediting a party that only a few months ago was seen as a fringe group? As the general election approaches, the battle for the working-class vote will intensify. The question is, will Labour's economic policies convince enough people, or will Reform UK's approach lead to a major shift in British politics? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, the tides are changing, and it's going to be a thrilling ride to the finish. To sum up, Rachel Reeves' criticism of Nigel Farage and Reform UK might have seemed like a bold move at first, but in reality, it has only highlighted the cracks in her own party's economic plans. With a growing number of voters turning to Reform UK for their practical approach to economic growth, Labour's future is beginning to look uncertain. The party's reliance on tax hikes and anti-business policies might just be its undoing. So what's your take on all of this? Do you think Labour has a chance to recover, or is Reform UK the future of British politics? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want more updates on British politics, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We upload new content daily, so make sure you stay up to date with all the latest news. Thanks for watching, and take care.